Hello everyone, this is me, TimeLiarG, and welcome to the creepiest enemies in Dark Souls. I'm starting here in Oolicile because I need to talk about the Oolicile villagers again and how strange they are. So, these villagers here have these bloated heads, and you can actually get one of these things as a drop. I believe there's two kinds of the helmets you can get. It's this kind right here, and then you have the hexer down there, which, I know, they weren't called hexes in this game. But, yeah, we have these villagers. And I asked this question in one of my other videos, but I don't know if Manus actually corrupted these guys or Koth did. Someone mentioned in my comments that Koth is not a corruptive force, but I mean, he just talking verbally to the villagers and getting them to dig up Manus and everything. I don't know. Maybe Koth does have some sort of ability to give these guys some bloated, multi-eyed. I think those are actually, if you look closely, you can kind of see pupils in there, like these irises. It's kind of interesting. Very strange, very creepy, and, you know, I could understand why they have those heads and everything, but why do they also have these giant claws that look like the batter from Off? You know, it's just very strange. You know what? They remade that game recently, didn't they? Or maybe they just ported it to Steam or something. I don't know. But anyway, aside from that, I think that's all I have to say about the villagers. There's quite a few questions about them that are unexplained, that are unanswerable. I guess you could say that. Just overall, very strange enemies. I just got a large Titanite shard. They do drop large Titanite shards. And some of them act very weirdly. As you can see, when they're standing still, they actually laugh a little bit, and there's another laughing one over in this building down here that actually stands, points, and laughs at a mimic, and I've already defeated the mimic on this character, so I can't show that off. That one of these villagers is just pointing and laughing at a mimic, implying there's some sort of relationship between the two. Like, it just saw that mimic before it turned into a mimic, and maybe had a bad encounter with the guy, and then he's laughing at the whoever got turned into that mimic's misfortune, I should say. Almost said mimic fortune. I, of course, have to talk about this guy again, the Chained Prisoner, and I've mentioned him in many of my other videos, but I just wanted to talk about him again. And as usual, if you head down here when you're grave lorded, there are actually Black Phantom versions of the Chained Prisoner. I think it makes it much stranger and much more creepy that there's actually Phantom versions of the Chained Prisoner if you're grave lorded. It's such an obscure thing to see. It is an absurdly obscure thing to see. Even when the DLC was new, it was kind of already obscure. And as usual, again, there's no answers to who the Chained Prisoner actually is. I've heard a few theories online saying that it's kind of a true King Alant situation where maybe this is the real Artorias Underground or something. I've read a few comments on my videos saying that the fact this actually has Phantom versions of it means it's not lore significant, and I really don't agree with that. I think this thing has an absurd amount of lore significance. It was given its own kind of boss room here, and this is something I've always wondered as well. I feel like this was supposed to be a boss at one point because of this, you know, just this giant arena. This is really just a boss room as well. It can actually destroy these statues, which this definitely just feels like a boss. And by the way, this thing also drops chain armor as well. So maybe it's the maybe it's the Crestfallen Warrior. That was a joke. I'm not implying this is the Crestfallen Warrior. But this is probably one of the creepiest enemies in the game, if not the creepiest enemy in the game. And Steampunk Burrito commented on one of my other videos saying that it actually looks like it has two heads. If you look closely at it, let me get my binoculars out here. So I'm going to try to take a look at this thing here, as you can see. And I know it's not standing still here for me, but it kind of does look like it has two heads on it. Very strange. So maybe it's not even one character. Maybe it's just, you know, multiple characters in there, or just multiple regular hollows or enemies or something. But the thing is, I don't think a regular hollow would actually be able to swing this thing around. This must have been some very powerful warrior or something. Its feet kind of remind me of the golems that walk around in the forest in the DLC. You know, the same ones that became the moss armor and everything that you find in the present time. Pretty strange stuff. I don't even know what that thing it's holding is. It's like some type of rock to try to keep him on the ground still, which clearly didn't work. Has a lot of steel put into him, and I don't think it has any other special attacks here. I think I've pretty much shown off its entire moveset. Just pretty odd. This is a pretty odd enemy. A very creepy enemy as well. Yeah, let's see if I can get a piece of the armor here. Oh, look at that. Chain armor and chain leggings. I do feel like there's some sort of cut, unused content with the Chain Prisoner, considering how strange it is, the boss arena and everything. It definitely feels like there was some concept that was never used, so if you have any suggestions on what you think it could possibly be or who the Chain Prisoner is, then I'd like to hear it. But aside from that, I guess the Chain Prisoner will remain a mystery. So I'm down here in Blighttown to talk about the next creepy enemy, and it is the Craigspider. And if you look closely at these guys, you can kind of tell that that is a human head on top of their body there, and the bottom part is, I guess it's supposed to resemble the spiders that Quaylana and her sister have below them. You can kind of see its head lifts up when it shoots the Chaos Flame Fire out of his mouth. I don't know if the other smaller head is also shooting flames out. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it's just screaming. It might be screaming in pain, actually, when it's doing that. Just an extremely disturbing enemy. And you can kind of see its spinal cord going up the back as well. It's just a half human, half spider, but in a... Oh, by the way, that's a attack it can use. It just lays an egg on the ground. That I actually forgot about that. I wasn't going to show that off because I didn't remember that was even a thing, but I'll see if I can get it to do it again. Alright, let's see if it lays another egg. Oh, there it is. Look at that. So this thing is, at least I think that's supposed to be an egg. Maybe not. Imagine being the poor hollow that instead of becoming something cool like Quaylana or her sister or the Capra Demon, you just become something like this. What kind of scariest enemies video would this be without talking about the skeleton dogs in the Tome of the Giants? And people call them skeleton dogs, but I believe they're called skeletal beasts, which makes more sense. They're not really dog-like except for the breathing. I think that's why people call them skeleton dogs, is because listen to their breathing real fast. I'll be silent for a little bit here. It really does sound like a dog breathing. I think a good way to show off the enemy is to try to recreate the Nope Dot GIF. I'm gonna do that right now. Let's we walk a little bit closer. Nope. That's what these things look like right here. Very odd and very creepy enemies. And their hitbox is pretty large, understandably. It's a very large enemy. It's not like a Dark Souls 2 hitbox. It is pretty accurate to the limbs and everything. But as you can see, this is what the enemy looks like, and this is just terrifying. This is definitely very creepy. What I'm most curious about with this enemy is, what did this actually look like when it was alive, and, you know, not a reanimated skeleton, when it actually had flesh on it and everything? Just leave your comments what you think this thing actually looked like. I'm down here in the Chasm of the Abyss to show off the giant humanity, or giant humanities, and I don't think these things are really that creepy, but having them all stare at you like this when you jump down here, it is pretty eerie. I like how they try to gather around you and try to flank you as well. I think that makes them really interesting, a really interesting enemy, and especially lore-wise as well. Who knows? I don't think there's any explanation for these things. Who knows what these things actually are? I mean, obviously, okay, they're humanity, but were these hollows that became humanity? Is this the final stage of hollowing, is just becoming humanity sprites like this? Just something very interesting to think on, and what determines the size as well. It's actually good that I've shown this off on the video as well, because I actually needed to farm humanity down here. So let's see if we get lucky down here. Let's try to fight these things. And it's been a while since I actually farmed these things for humanity. Normally you just go to the rats and whatnot, but you can actually go here. I think it's more fun to fight these things rather than just, you know, going back to the bonfire, going back to the rats over and over again. I don't really want to take my fashion souls off for the video, so I'm not going to be wearing a symbol of avarice, and I didn't feel like switching my rings either, so I'm not going to be wearing a gold serpent ring. So, just going to see if I get lucky without those things. And obviously I don't have the humanity to boost my luck either. I think something else that's strange about the enemies is how hostile they actually are towards the player and towards Sif, because you know how they were surrounding Sif and Artorias left the shield to protect him and whatnot, made a barrier around him. I don't know what the lore explanation is behind these guys here, why they're so hostile. You wouldn't think that they're hostile if they're just made of a giant clump of humanity. I guess you're bringing too much light down here. I'd have to assume it's because you're connected to the bonfire as a hollow, and that's why they're so hostile, so maybe that could be a reason, but it doesn't make any sense why they're surrounding Sif in a seemingly hostile way, and why Sif would need protection from these things. Something about that's just really strange as well. You can see they're trying to jump on top of me here. Trying to Goomba stomp me now. Uh-oh. That's not good. Here, let me try to dodge them real fast. Oh no, there's more jumping down too. Very cool enemy. This is probably one of the coolest enemies in the entire series, really. I like that one puzzle in Dark Souls 3 where you actually had to turn into humanity using, I believe they're the branches. Yeah, it's not like the Dark Souls 2 item, the Silver Talisman. It's those white branches. It's very interesting stuff. That was a really cool moment too. I think that's how you get to the Purging Monument to help Patches. I believe that's what that was for. Haven't actually done a full playthrough of Dark Souls 3 in a long time. By the way, I noticed a few comments saying that people really wanted to see some Dark Souls 3 videos, and trust me, I'm still working on it. I just really didn't feel like, you know, re-downloading Dark Souls 3 yet. I'm going to do it soon. I'm going to be downloading Dark Souls 3 again soon. So don't worry about it. There's a giant one down there, as you can see, just staring up at me. Something else that's strange about these enemies is how they actually drop 10 souls. I have no explanations for that. You can see the smaller one drops 6. So they actually have a small amount of souls within them for some reason. I hope you all enjoyed my list of the scariest and creepiest enemies in Dark Souls, at least in my opinion. I was going to add something else at the end here with the Flying Hydra in Ash Lake. I just didn't have any characters that had it undefeated, so I didn't have any footage for that, but that is also a very terrifying enemy. The giant Flying Hydra of Ash Lake, that is absolutely horrific. Aside from that, may God bless your day, your week, your month, your life, and I'll see you all around. See you all around.